What's up, you guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Fit Women's Weekly Podcast. I hope that you're having a fantastic week. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. I am Kendall Boyle. I've been a personal trainer now for almost 20 years. And on this podcast, I love sharing my experience as a personal trainer, as a certified strength coach, as a certified weight loss coach, a kettlebell coach, and as a woman. I've gone through it all as well. Weight loss, weight gain, trying to figure out what is actually going to work, what doesn't work. I have exercised too much, I've exercised too little, and I love sharing that experience with you guys because I've got a lot freaking of it. Now on today's show, I want to talk a little bit about running. I mention running a lot. I'm not going to say I don't talk about it. I do talk about running a lot. If you've been listening to the show for a long time, you know that I am an avid runner. I have run every week for almost the past 20 years. For me, running was my gateway into fitness. When I first went to college and I gained a lot of weight in a single semester, I didn't know any better when it came to exercise. I didn't understand strength training at the time, and I just started running. And as I got more confident in my running, that's when I started to kind of wonder, okay, now what happens if I go into that side of the gym, being that side, the free weight side? And so that to me was my gateway. So I always want to express to people that I know that, a lot of personal trainers, myself included, are always really trying to encourage women to grab weights, lift heavier, and push themselves. But if you're brand new to fitness, simply just start by doing something that moves your body, something that you're not nervous about trying. And for a lot of people, that is running. And then once you build that confidence in it, then you just start to become a little bit more confident in trying other things, right? So don't be afraid. Go, if that's where you're starting with. That doesn't mean just because you start with running that you're going to stick to running forever. Now, I have, because I simply love it. I talk about this a lot, that I love strength training. I love kettlebells. But for me, those things are things that I also share with everybody else, right? When it comes to Fit Women's Weekly Live, I'm filming my workouts every single day. And so my workouts, when it comes to picking up weights, aren't just for me. They're also for my clients. And so I think that it's important to have things that are personal to you. And for me, that is running. So people are always asking, why do I continuously do it? Why don't I cut back? Because my volume is very high when it comes to fitness per week. And it's simply because that is the one thing in my life that is 100% for me. So I get up on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday mornings. I have done that for decades now, and I get a run in. And today was actually kind of special because Tuesdays, which are when I record these podcasts, are normally dedicated to speed workouts, which is what I want to talk about today. But today was a little bit different because I have been playing around with a couple of different new routes in my area. And so I was like, you know what? I wonder, we have a golf course nearby, and I'll run some of the golf course from time to time where like it intersects with roads, but I've never actually done the entire course. So today I was like, you know what? I wonder how big a golf course is if you just run all 18 holes. So that's what I did. It was actually really beautiful. I do it obviously before the course opens up. So the sun is just starting to come up. It's kind of quiet. There's a little bit of fog, especially over some of the like the ponds and stuff, the water, whatever they're called. You know what I'm talking about. But I didn't see any alligators today, but I did see a couple of deer. And the course from start to finish ended up being close to 6 miles, which really, really surprised me. I thought it was going to be about 3 miles. I asked my husband what he thought would be his guess. He guessed around 4 miles. So it ended up being about 5.5 miles, which I thought that was pretty good. So maybe one day I'll try to see if I can do like 2 laps, because obviously they're so big that it doesn't feel like you're being repetitive with it. So yeah, I might just start kind of doing that, testing different golf courses around in Charleston for running. I don't know. But all that to say is that I recently came across an article that talks about the best. We're going to talk about speed workouts specifically today. But one recent article that I found on Yahoo News talked about the best HIIT workout according to science. So with my running, I'm always looking for, well, first off, I'm always looking for new news to share with you guys. But when I saw this one, I kind of was like, this is interesting. I'll try it out. So I found it a couple of weeks ago. It was published on April 24th. But I actually 2017, but it just came up into my Google News. And I decided that I wanted to kind of test it out a couple of times before I talked about it so that we could go over it and then I could share how it went down when I actually implemented this type of training. And then I also want to talk about speed work just in general. Like, what does speed work do for the body? Is it good? How much should you do it? And I found a couple of different news articles on actually how speed work sabotages your fitness, which, as much as I do love speed work, it brought up a lot of great points, and it was discussed by people who know a lot more about running training than I do. I am not a certified running coach. I just have 20 years of running experience of myself from running anything from sprint distances, and I have run a ultra marathon, a couple ultra marathons now. So yeah, but it's all just personal experience and my own trial and error, basically. But anyway, let's first get into the Yahoo News article where we're talking about the best HIIT workout according to science. The one before this that I had always heard about is obviously Tabata being intervals of 20 seconds of exercise followed by 10 seconds of rest for 8 rounds. And that was designed by a Japanese physiologist who discovered that ratio was optimal for fat burning potential. So I also want to go into this before we really break down this article by breaking interval and high intensity training into 2 different thought processes, one being the fat burning potential that it can have on your body composition, but then the other on performance based. So it's really important for you to figure out what is your goal when it comes to your cardiovascular high intensity training, because that's going to have 2 very different outcomes. All right, so let's get into this article. Like I said, it was published on Yahoo News, and it was originally published, the study was in Medicine and Science and Sports and Exercise. So any HIIT, high intensity interval training session, has major fat burning benefits, but a 4x4 workout is tops for improving fitness per a study in the Medicine of Science and Sports and Exercise. So this workout they recommend doing 3 times per week for the next 6 weeks to improve your cardiovascular fitness. And they say not a fan of the treadmill. The study author Frederick Husted Buckrod, y'all, I apologize if I was not able to pronounce that correctly, says that any cardio exercise that causes large muscles, so like biking or burpees, should work too. And I think that one form of cardio that often doesn't get talked about often enough is swimming. I think that swimming is an amazing gateway for people that are new to cardiovascular exercise, especially if obviously you have to be a good swimmer, but if you have joint issues, then swimming is such an amazing way to take off some of the gravity and some of the force on your joints to allow yourself to really get that heart rate moving, get your body moving, get some really big muscles moving without putting the strain on those joints. So anywho, just putting that out there. I am not going to recommend doing this workout with burpees. That would be, as much as I love burpees, I would never make my clients do that. So get started with this 4x4 HIIT workout. The whole idea is, this is not right. The whole idea is that it is 4 minutes on, 4 minutes off. So 4 minutes of really high intensity where you're going at about 80 to 90% of your max heart rate. Basically, the original article that I found said that you should be going at like a sprint, where you're not going to be able to sprint for 4 minutes. If you're able to sprint for 4 minutes, then you're not sprinting. That's what I got to say to that. But the whole protocol is 4x4, so 4-minute bouts of really hard exercise with a 4-minute time of rest. The 4 minutes of sprinting should be 75 to 80% of your maximum heart rate or the maximum speed that you can sustain. Then you're followed by rest, such as light walking, to allow your heart rate to decrease a little bit, and you're going to do that for 4 rounds. It is, so according to the study, This 4x4 protocol is frequently used to improve health and cardiovascular fitness, and a study of 39 individual adults found that heart rate significantly increased during exercise, peaking at around 172 beats per minute during the fourth interval, which 172 beats per minute isn't really that high when you think of like my max heart rate would be 220 minus 40, which is 180. So at around 170 beats, then yeah, that's going to be about 85 to 90% of my max heart rate, which for high intensity training is about where you want it to go. See. The HIIT workouts generally combine short bursts of intense exercise with periods of rest and lower intense exercise. Intervals can boost cardiorespiratory health within a smaller time investment compared to continuous forms of exercise because of that up-down. So basically what they're saying is you can get more bang for your buck when it comes to your overall cardio fitness in these very short intervals versus if I were to just go run at a nice steady, slow rhythm for an hour. And there's some yes and no. Both are very, very beneficial to you and building your fitness and your cardiovascular health. And we're going to talk more about that in just a second. But just going off of this study, HIIT is more likely to hurt you because it is fast-paced and the moves can be complicated, which is really weird. This I actually copied from the study as some of the report. And that I find a little strange that it can be complicated because generally, when we're talking about something like this with the 4x4, you're not going to do 4 minutes of snatches, right? You're not going to do 4 minutes going as hard as you can of a bear complex, which is a weightlifting barbell complex exercise. You're not going to do 4 minutes of this, of muscle ups, right? When you're talking about high intensity workouts like this, you're focusing again more on cardio where you can really give it your all for 4 minutes straight. And so complicated is not exactly the word that I had used. It is intense. It can be very hard on your body, especially if you're not doing a proper warm-up. You can put your muscles at risk of getting pulled or strained or even torn if you don't warm up and you're just going straight into going full out for 4 minutes. But as far as complicated, as long as you have a good timer, it's not complicated at all. I use a timer called I think it's called Gym Intervals, maybe even called interval timer. I don't know if you guys are curious. I can look it up. But you plug in what you need. So I would put in 4 minutes of work, 4 minutes of rest, 4 rounds, and you hit play, and then you are just at the mercy of your timer for the entire workout. So no, it's actually very, very simple to do. Can cause overuse injuries and joint strains because it puts a lot of stress on the body. Now, what I will say about this article is that the science itself proves it's very beneficial at burning body fat. That is interesting to me. If you are not doing HIIT intervals into your training program, I highly recommend it if your goal is to change your body composition. Doing it just once a week because it is intense on the body. It puts a lot of strain on your muscles and it's very hard to recover. So it's not something that you want to do very, very often. It's not something that you should do every single workout that you do, which I find interesting that the news article that we found on Yahoo News said to do this 3 times a week. I would not do this 3 times a week. I would say do this 1 time a week, and then your other cardio-based workouts like running should be more of a tempo run where you're able to sustain a good push. You're still working a little bit beyond your zone 2 over amount of time, and then having a really easy based workout in there where it's just nice and steady for what's quote unquote a long run or a long swim or a long bike. But I would not do high intensity interval workouts for my speed work every single time I lace up my shoes to go for a run. I do it once a week. And sometimes I don't even do it once a week, which takes me to the next part, how speed work in and of itself, while it is fantastic, could also sabotage your gains, especially if it's performance that you're trying to go after. Body composition, it can be fantastic. It is absolutely going to turn your body fat potential, rev it up a little bit, especially if you are making sure to follow a really smart nutrition plan. But if you are trying to train for something like a race, then it's time to step back and have a really different outlook onto your training and make sure that the training that you're doing is smart for performance. So what I mean by that is I personally do speed work, like I said, once a week max, and then sometimes I'll go weeks and months without it. And then when I feel that I need to rev up for an event or for a race, I'll start adding it in. So just to quickly define speed work, for this particular article that I found, which was published in Runner's World, speed work refers to reps performed at your VO2 max pace, a pace that you can hold for 8 to 10 minutes or faster. So a typical speed work in this range would be 6 by 800 meter runs or 8 by 400 meter runs. When I used to do speed work a lot, when I was much more into my runs for performance based, when I was training for a lot of 5Ks and 10Ks, my favorites, I love doing 8 to 10 sets of 400 meters. 400 meters is just, you can really go full out, but you could also recover pretty quick in about 90 seconds before each set. But man, your legs are fried. Anyways, I've been practicing over the past couple of months introducing speed work back into my own system, and I've been doing it mostly timer based because I don't have access to a track anymore. I do my runs early in the morning. So like I said, I'll program my workout into my timer and then just let it go. And every time I hear it ding in my ear, I know to speed down or slow down. So I have been practicing with that 4x4 that we talked about. I did do that. I liked it. It went by very, very quickly. I did more sets because where I am in my personal fitness. For a beginner, I think that a 4x4 is great. 4 sets of 4 minutes. I have been a runner for so long that my speed work can go a little bit longer, and I ended up doing 4 minutes on, 3 minutes off, and I think I did it for a 45-minute workout, followed with a 5-minute warm up and a 10 to 15 minute cool down. So that's personally something that I can handle. But a couple other ones that I really like, I love speed work that includes a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where you start off with 1 minute fast, you recover for a minute, you go 2 minutes fast with a 2-minute recovery, 3 minutes fast, 3-minute recovery, 4 minutes fast, 4-minute recovery, 5 minutes fast, 5-minute recovery, and then you come back down. That is one of my favorites. Again, it's mindless. It is not complicated. You just have to make sure that you're really pushing yourself on the paces where you're supposed to be pushing yourself, and you're also letting yourself recover at the paces when you're supposed to be recovering. It's actually, I find that recovery can sometimes be a little bit harder because you don't want to just stop and walk, but your jog pace should be a very comfortable pace where you can regain the ability to have a conversation. You should feel your heart rate coming down. You should feel yourself being able to breathe a little bit better. So make sure that your recoveries are recoveries and that your work is actually work. So just a little bit tidbit for speed work in general. But here's what we're going to talk about. So this article was written by Greg McMillan, and it was with the help of, there's a couple of different coaches that he talks to in here, but I believe that Greg is the main one in here, and it talks about the different ways that speed work can actually hurt your overall fitness. And one, it's because it can sabotage your base building. When you're brand new or you're just getting started in a new cycle, one of the best things that you can do is a lot of easy, steady state runs, because that's going to help your muscle cells and your running muscles, right, to create better and larger mitochondria. Mitochondria, if you guys remember biology, are the powerhouses that drive your cells. They provide the energy for your cells. And so if you're doing too much speed work, then that is called, like we talked about, it's very intense, and that intensity can actually damage the cells, and that's okay. That's what makes our muscles stronger. However, if you're damaging your cells where you are trying to build a base component, you're not allowing your body potentially the ability to recover from run to the next. And instead of building up stronger mitochondria, your cells are just in a continuous phase of trying to rebuild and repair themselves. So over time, it could actually wear you down and hurt your cardiovascular base instead of building it up. So if you're first getting started or you're first starting to train for a run, then maybe it might be best for you just to stick to more of a slower aerobic based runs where you're just building on time and distance, and you will build newbie gains from the go of that. That's why when you're brand new to running, the first couple of races that you do, you're PRing every single time. And chances are when you are brand new to running, you're not doing a lot of speed work. It's only as you build your base and then that starts to plateau that we really need to start focusing more on the speed work aspect to help break past that plateau to help you get a little bit faster and faster. So that's part one. Number two, a little speed goes a long way. Speed work makes you faster for a while. It's like a shot of espresso. You get an instant boost. You drink another and you fly higher, but eventually you're going to crash. Athletes that do too much speed work for too long soon find, like Horn, that their racing and their workout performances start to decline. Groundbreaking science in the mid-21st century was one of the first to discover this, calling the exhaustion state. They found that when the body is continuously challenged in the same way over and over again, it becomes exhausted, unable to perform at normal levels, and this can happen with volume increasing weekly mileage too quickly as well, but it's easier to fall into it, more common with high intensity. Absolutely makes sense. The mitochondria and the enzymes become compromised, making it more challenging for you to hit your paces, even on easy runs. So in response, athletes often begin to train harder only to see their conditions worsen because they think, oh, I'm slowing down. I must need to work harder and harder, when really they need to allow their bodies to rest and recover a little bit more. And that's what it all comes down to. So this article is in no means saying that speed work is bad for you. Speed work is not bad for you. But it is important to make sure that you're giving your body proper time to recover between the speed work sessions to be able to gain the benefits that it has to offer. And some of the results that speed work can give you are it increases your VO2 max, making you a more efficient runner. It changes your fast twitch muscle fibers so that you're able to sprint for longer distances, where you have your slow and your fast twitch muscles. Slow twitch muscles are your endurance muscles that help you run for those long distances at a nice steady pace, where fast twitch helps you have a fast power off of the block. It's going to help you finish to the finish line. When you see that finish line, it's going to help you sprint, and it improves your lactic acid threshold in your running economy. So it actually does help you to recover. So it sounds very counterintuitive, but it also helps you learn a faster turnover with your feet. So what I always tell, I have friends, I don't talk to some of these ladies as much as I used to, but I used to run with women that if I told them to run 100 meters or I told them to run 3 miles, they ran the same exact pace because they didn't know how to do what's called turnover, where their legs are able to move faster. So when you start doing speed work, it's not necessarily about trying to run 3 miles faster. It's about training your legs to be able to move faster, that have that turnover, where instead of maybe, and I'm just making these numbers up, you guys, instead of hitting your front foot on the ground 100 times in a minute, you start to be able to teach your foot to do that 200 times per minute, right? Obviously, that's going to be a faster pace. And so speed work just helps you from your brain to your muscles connect the dots a little bit better so that you're able to physically move faster. Let's see. What I love about this is it actually does give some really good. So basically, when it comes down to it, speed work is great. Too much speed work, very hard on the body, especially when it comes to performance. Speed work, interval work, fantastic at doing body composition changes, burning body fat. But again, it is intense, and you want to make sure that that's not the only thing that you're focusing on when it comes to your training. So make sure that you're focused on recovery, make sure that you're focused on strength building. And when it comes to specifically performance-based speed work, you want to do 60 to 70% of your cycle training should be focused on building your endurance, stamina, and running to help prevent injuries. And we're talking for that either tempo runs, where you're doing like a 10K pace for 45 minutes, or you're just doing a nice slow steady run. You're just building that base. And then as you get closer to whatever event it is that you want to be able to perform at 100%, that's when you start about 4 to 8 weeks out implementing more structured speed work in, where you're just doing it one time per week, and it's only the last 30 to 40% of your training cycle. And yeah, make sure recovery. And we're talking sleep, nutrition, protein, hydration, massage, foam rolling is all going to be beneficial. So I personally absolutely love speed work. I also know from myself that anytime that I want to lean out and I have a big event coming up, I know that if I start implementing more sprints into my own training, I see results pretty fast. I don't get fast results from running 50 miles per week. I do that just for myself and for my own physical fitness. But in terms of my body, if I wanted to see fast results because I have a photo shoot coming up in a couple of weeks or whatever it may be, I know that sprint work is the way that is going to help me achieve that. And it also doesn't add on a ton more time onto my own personal fitness training because I'm already doing a lot with Fit Women's Weekly Live. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Like I said, I did try that 4x4 training cycle out. I really enjoyed it. I did it for a couple of weeks and I could feel my paces getting faster. I was able to start recovering faster in between each of those intervals, but it was also a really big challenge. And that 4 minutes, I love that kind of time frame because it's long enough where you're going pretty a significant distance wise, right? In 4 minutes, I can go over an 800 meters, so over half a mile for sure. But so you're having to play that mental game of like, this is exhausting, but it's also not so long, like a 10-minute interval where you're like, oh my God, I'm over this. I can't do this. So there is the mental aspect, but as soon as you start to become mentally fatigued, that's when the timer goes off and then you're able to rest, catch up, and then you got to do it all over again. But remember, you're only having to start with 4 rounds. So that's the other cool thing about speed work is that it doesn't take a lot. I know that sometimes on Saturdays, my husband and I will go out and just do 40-meter sprints, and we do like 4 or 5, and that's enough for us to go, whew, okay, that's great. We're done. So absolutely go test it out. Just don't rely on your speed work to be in your cycle 3 days per week. Do it once a week. See what kind of benefits you gain from it and how you feel, how you look, how your overall fitness is. And I want to hear back from you. Now, if you do want to figure out what your training should look like the other days of the week, I would love to help you with that. And that's where you can go to fitwomensweekly.com to learn more about my online strength training studio, Fit Women's Weekly Live, which is where I am always so active and why I was telling you guys that I already do enough and I can't really add much more to my training cycle, because every day, Monday through Friday, I go live 2 times with a 60-minute workout and a 30-minute workout that you can either do live with me or you can just hit play and do the replay of the video when it is right for you. Each day of the week has a different theme. So Mondays are interval Mondays, Tuesday are total body strength days, Wednesdays, upper body and core, Thursdays are leg day, and Fridays are kettlebells. And then on the weekends, we also do a 30-minute stretch and recovery too, because that is just as important in overall fitness as all the other elements that we always talk about here on the podcast. And you can try it out for free, you guys. That is one way to help support the channel. I will make sure that the link is down in the show notes so that you can check it out. And also in the show notes are other ways that you can support the channel, like liking this video if you're watching it on YouTube, or subscribing, or if you're listening to this on your favorite platform, your podcast platform, make sure that you're subscribed so that you don't miss out on weekly episodes, and leave a review. All right, you guys, now I would love to know, I want to hear from you, whether that is down in the comments or you can slide into my DMs over at Kendall Boyle Fitness on Instagram. I want to know, what is your favorite, if you do speed work, what is your favorite speed work? Is it distance-based like 4x800 meters, or is it time-based like this 4x4? Or is speed work something that you want to experiment with but you haven't really done it in the past? Let me know your thoughts. And if you have any questions or topics you want covered on future episodes, never hold back. Slide into my DMs, leave a comment, or you can email me at kendall@fitwomensweekly.com. All right, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Wish me luck today because I have a lot of admin to do, and today is about finances, so that'll be fun. Bye, guys.